imperative or critical or content loaded in terms of your research. So I want you to think about that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So I guess I was trying to sort of, convey my the quality of being impressed by it. So I hope you garnered that.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, we're almost all here. Ryan, I thought we were going to be at the airport or flying or something.
No, I got in about 2 o'clock this morning.
It's a good thing you're young.
Well, I'm not that young.
You're younger than me. Okay, let's get started. Do we have everybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Excellent. Hi, everyone. So is anybody sort of standing on the ledge right now, ready to jump from the workload, or freaking out that they're going to be publishing in a few days, or concerned about their credit card bill, so when they send their print order, it'll go through? Not that I can help you with that. I hope everything's in order. We can talk about that individually, or now. Max, are you raising your hand, or are you just trying to turn the light bulb off behind you? You're giving me a thumbs up. What a good man. Max?
I'm freaking out a little, Mark.
Yeah, it's 18 days from now, right?
Yeah, lots to do.
Nothing's more important, right? Okay, tonight is, so we'll talk a little bit about that stuff. Let's move right into it. Who was our last presenter last week? Was it you, Max?
I think it was me, Mark.
Okay, Ryan. We'll get you now so that you can enjoy Wheel of Fortune or whatever it is that comes on at this hour of the day over there.
Okay. And I guess I'll start by saying I don't think I posted my materials until the wee hours of this morning from the airplane Wi-Fi. So I understand if my reviewers didn't get a chance to take a good look at it.
So tonight we're talking about the non-elective, or the non-core elective, yes?
Correct.
All right.
Let me get it open up here. Okay, so let me know if that comes up for everybody.
It's here. Go ahead.
And I chose to go with my current issues in architecture class, and focused on one assignment from that class, which was the basically an argumentative essay. So for this particular course, I just had the 2 spreads here, and I think that the essay portion will hopefully explain it. So Current Issues in Architecture was an elective course focused on the relationship of architecture to an ever-changing world. Among the many objectives of the course was the ability to articulate coherent and well-researched arguments on complex architectural concepts. This educational outcome was exercised through various assignments, including a polemical essay. The focus for this assignment was the highly controversial Knik Arm Bridge, which would serve as a secondary connection between the city of Anchorage, Alaska, and the Matanuska-Susitna Valley. Its supporters claimed the promises of economic stimulus and access to affordably developed land, while calling the project essential infrastructure. However, despite the project's goals and potential short-term benefits, it would ultimately contribute to the urban sprawl that plagues many of our cities. The bridge would serve as little more than a gateway to virtually limitless development, and in doing so deteriorate the unique environment that characterizes the city of Anchorage. Over time, the resulting suburban development would likely contribute negatively to a series of conditions including climate change, dependence on foreign oil, and community health, among others. Unexplored alternatives included increased public transportation, increased bus service, and introduction of a commuter rail service, as well as a ferry service at the proposed bridge location. However, the most logical solution to many of the perceived issues was the natural densification of Anchorage's existing footprint. The many potential implications of the proposed Knik Arm Bridge project, as well as its tremendous estimated cost, made it difficult to support, especially considering the number of viable alternatives that have not been fully explored. Much of Anchorage's appeal as a livable city is the result of its current layout and proximity to the immediately adjacent Alaskan wilderness. These aspects need to be recognized and preserved through thoughtful urban planning rather than the urban sprawl that would result with the completion of the Knik Arm Bridge.
Okay, so I'll ask the question. It's probably unfair if what happened is the way that it played out. So if any of the reviewers that were, meant to look at this tonight have something, you can offer that up. Or if you don't have anything, maybe you have an immediate reaction, which is maybe all Ryan can expect to get at this point.
Well, I looked over it earlier today when I had a moment. Well, I was wondering if there were any diagrams or like part of the research that went into the project that you could maybe incorporate. But otherwise, there was one small typo. I'm not sure if you caught it, where at the end of your second paragraph, where it says, however, the most logical solution to many, originally it was just one O in it instead of two.
Okay.
It showed up on my Microsoft Word. This is really the main reason I caught that one. But otherwise, the map on the left sheet, even at 100% zoom, it's a little hard to read the really fine notes on it that go up the left expressway or trail.
Okay.
Maybe like making that just a little bit bigger, not much bigger. But yeah, like the squares are really hard to read, and sort of the legend. But the legend's easier to read, but not much bigger, just a little bit bigger so the text is more legible.
Okay.
Other than that, for it being primarily a research project, or an essay based at that, the image really explains what the project you're researching is. So the two images sum up nicely what you wrote about.
Thanks, Kyle. That's nice. Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
That was what I got from looking over it. So.
Anyone else?
Thanks,
I
Kyle.
was another reviewer.
Okay, Shayna.
I actually posted a markup in Google Drive. There were just a couple grammatical things. I think there were two sentences that I noticed looked like kind of run-on sentence, long sentences. So just like something as simple as adding a comma in the middle, and those are marked on the PDF in Google Drive. Kyle mentioned or started to mention the other comment that I had, the map, making it a little bit bigger, and maybe, I don't know if the intention was to have it placed there, but to me, like left aligning it with the title or kind of anchoring it with something might be something to look at. It looks like it's kind of floating right now. Other than that, everything was real clean, real easy to read, just like all the other spreads that you've had so far.
Yeah.
So it looks nice.
Yeah, that's typical. Shayna, I'm not surprised that you were able to find the window of time look at this. I appreciate that. I appreciate both of you for attempting to engage in this, given the sort of circumstances of the posting. Kyle, can we go back to your point for just a moment? I know what you mean by diagrams, but I'm wondering if I can prompt you to elaborate on maybe what kinds of diagrams that he might consider adding.
Like in his essay when he mentions like the urban sprawl effect, maybe if you had it from your research of like how it impacts an area from like a time-lapse perspective of like if there's any certain spots within the Anchorage community already that it's starting to impact, like showing what the downside of it is.
Right.
So
good. I think that's kind of interesting. I mean, I think we all know what sprawl is, but a lot of us don't know about Anchorage. So maybe what I'm hearing Kyle say, Ryan, is to make evident the kinds of sprawl that we should be concerned about. So that might be worth thinking about. But like Ryan, the sort of concern that you bring up in this essay is a somewhat anti-development, potentially anti-development position. Is that a fair synopsis? And if it is an anti-development option, then what's an architect to do? And so that's kind of the question I want you to begin. What I'm going to suggest is that you begin thinking about that issue, that responsibility, and how architects can engage in this creatively and effectively to mitigate the worst things about development, which is sprawl, but the sort of promoting of more carefully considered development in terms of managing density, managing stormwater, managing any of the concerns like open space, light, shadow, shade, and these kinds of things. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, you're basically taking a somewhat ethical / polemical position that the bridge produced bad things, but like I mean, architects would maybe look at this as an opportunity to make a profit off of development by working with developers to create something that's potentially beautiful and controlled and manageable. So maybe not here, but at some point I think you need to recognize that conundrum, right?
Right. Yeah, I see where you're coming from, and just for reference, the bridge has not been built yet, and it still is. It's a hot topic, but yeah, I think it's. I don't know if it's not so much, and I think you hit on it. It's not so much anti-development as it is just maybe a more controlled and densified development of the area that the city already occupies. And I think one of the biggest issues is that all of a sudden you're across this bridge and you're outside of the municipality of Anchorage, and Anchorage is no longer benefiting from maybe tax revenue, and they have a lot of these cities that get outside the municipality of Anchorage probably don't have the as well laid out zoning ordinances and stuff, and things just all of a sudden it's going to be this one giant long strip mall town that just goes on forever. And I think part of my issue was trying to condense the essay that I had done down into 300 words and still hit on the main.
I know. I know, but and I'm not, and I guess I'm not trying to dwell on the essay here, which is actually quite good, but begin sort of elaborating on the question of how architects can engage in this discourse, in this discussion, and provide some framework for guiding developers, for guiding municipalities and planning boards, so that ultimately our communities, through a more carefully managed process, are better. And I think architects have a voice. They have a claim to stake there. And so maybe you can unpack some of that in the reflective essay. And so tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's kind of maybe the theme of the conversation, where you know, probably have been nagged enough by me, maybe not, but maybe you have, to write the essay, to begin writing the reflective essay, the larger 1,200, whatever it is, 1,500 word essay, and if you haven't done that, then gosh darn it, you got to start now, really, because you're just not gonna get to it, and in light of the sort of pace that we're trying to manage here, but tonight's class, the non-core elective class, I think reveals maybe an inadvertent choice for you. Maybe you kind of couldn't find a good elective to take, and you ended up getting the class that you're going to write about tonight begrudgingly. Or maybe it does reveal something about you. Maybe this class, for example, for Ryan, the current issues in architecture class, maybe that was a class that he actually fancied taking, and this is revealing about his sort of future and his interests in architecture, and how it's central or aligned with his values. But the class tonight, I think, is part of the other conversations now, where you've been talking for 3 other essays about this, then this, then this, and now you're up to the 4th essays. And by now, I think you should be, and we should all be, deducing some sort of thematic thread that's making its way into your essays. And I want you to sort of try to discern where that is and what that is, and begin unraveling that thread into that larger essay. So I think we need to talk a little bit more about that. So I'm going to try and guide you to do that. I'm going to try and encourage you to do that tonight, and that's why I said to you, Ryan, what I did. But I think, if I fail to say that to you tonight, you need to be hearing what I said to Ryan as something said to you, because I think this is where you really need to be sort of taking your work. And of course, next week should be a wonderful week, because it's going to be your ADS2 portfolio plate. We should have tremendous breadth and depth of images. We should have, I think, a real sense of who you are through what would be your terminal sort of capstone architectural studio project, and it should be your best writing to date. Again, because the subject matter should be near and dear to you, and it is probably, hopefully, a class that you're really, excited about. I'll pause in case anyone has any questions, and we'll leave Ryan, and thank Shana and Kyle for looking this over. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Good. Kyle, do you want to go next?
1 second. Does this work?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay, so class was intro to digital fabrication, and actually this one sort of relates also to my final studio class a little bit. So sheet and cover, opening sheet, then the project itself. So intro to digital fabrication, focus on the use of computers and machines to create physical projects. The main tool used in Intro to Digital Fabrication was a CNC machine. Over the course of the class, groups were assigned to experiment with different materials. Each of the experimental projects allowed for the groups to test at different scales and become efficient in making mistakes. The experimental projects were focused on learning the machinery and the programming of the machine. For the final project, each group was allowed to decide on a location on campus and alter the space by installing a temporary installation. Each installation had to demonstrate the knowledge gained from the experimental projects. The scale of the final project, however, was not just something that could be held in your hand, but altered the entire space. The focus of the group became a drop ceiling that would attach to the existing structure. The ceiling is designed to reflect the existing lights that are above it and create uplighting throughout the room. The uplighting effect is done by filling in the squares that are next to the existing lights with a white material that allows light to go through it, as well as reflect light back up to the ceiling. The wave pattern of the grid allows the material to get closer to the lights where it is needed and farther away where necessary. Breaking up the ceiling into 6 sections allowed for a proper installation of each section and also allowed for the ceiling to become a temporary piece that could be taken down if needed by the school. By recognizing the main uses of the room, the major axis and the pattern was placed along the east-west axis in order to give orientation to the users of the room. And then it goes into like a quick processes of the entire installation of the project. And that was it.
Great, great. Let me, I'll make some sort of grammar or word swap comments in a moment, but I want to make the time available to your reviewers. So the first one can go.
That was one of them.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I'll screen share what I have here. So my first question was, and maybe you've been including this on all of them, but what does the C and the 0 stand for?
It was just what we ended up titling the project.
Oh, okay. And is that just an abbreviation or something?
Pretty much what it came down to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, I like this really simple black and white image here. It looked like maybe down. Let's see how I can do this. Right down at the bottom there, it looks like it may be cut off. I don't know if that was.
Yeah, slightly. It's yeah. I think originally when we made the diagram for the image, how it lined up on the sheets, and then I will try and see if I can find the actual diagram we used, and before it got cropped. But yeah, I slightly cut.
Okay, and then I don't know if, how you've been doing, or I can't recall how you've done the rest of your essays, but I thought here especially it might be nice to have the straight kind of margin on both sides of those paragraphs there.
Yeah, justified right.
And I included some grammatical markups and stuff in a Word file for you. One of the other things was maybe reversing these two. I don't know, I just kind of think left to right, top to bottom, you know, kind of design and execution. You know, your SketchUp is kind of the preliminary concept design, and then you moved on to the actual finished product. But at the same time, you had so many images of the finished product here. Potentially, you could just eliminate that one, maybe. I guess that's a personal choice. And then the only other thing I had was maybe including a legend somewhere that describes the different processes that are happening. I see you have these numbers here, And I'm guessing it's just, sequence of events, but maybe including some sort of a legend that explains what's going on in each of those pictures.
And maybe the legend, maybe in the legend, you don't have to have text supporting each number. Maybe it's only 1, 3, 4, and 6, for example. That could work.
Mm-hmm.
Can we go back to the second page for a moment? I want to make sure I understand what Ryan's provoking here. Are you saying dump the... no, I meant the other plate. Are you saying dump the photograph in this picture?
At first I was just thinking, put the photograph on the bottom and the conceptual rendering on the top. But then, once I saw this page, there's two very similar images to what you're showing there, so I didn't know if it was entirely necessary or if there's potentially something else that could use that real estate.
Maybe one suggestion is to cut that image in half, Kyle, so that it's only, if it's this large now on the sheet, it reduces to more of a portrait. It's a landscape now, but maybe it becomes a portrait, and it's just sort of creatively cropped so that the figure ground of this work, of this plate, emphasizes the narrative and the design drawing, and then the finished product is kind of an abstraction, only to be more revealed on the next page. That's maybe something to look at.
Okay.
Who else is your reviewer?
I was.
Go ahead, Max.
I'll upload Kyle into Google Drive, the grammatical and kind of word processing review. Starting off on the first slide, I won't share because I don't really have markups, more or less notes in front of me. I understand the concept or the simplicity that's you're trying to work with on the intro page, the Intro to Digital Fabrication, the CO. I just think the placement's a little awkward. Depending what side of the spread or the plates that lands on, it might be kind of in the gutter. What's that?
All the title sheets will be on the left.
On the left. Okay. I would still look at the location and the size and kind of the composition of that page. I don't think you need to necessarily add anything. Just I'd maybe review that page in its context. The second slide or plate of just the kind of SketchUp diagram is what it appears. I think is very nicely done. And then in regards to the discussion on the third page of the text, I agree with Ryan in terms of justifying on both sides that might help make this page more crisp. I think another justification is that top image could be on the bottom just in sense of the weight of it. I think
gravity.
The two other images are fairly light. I think placing that on the bottom would help kind of solidify that. And then the final fourth page, I think the images are laid out nicely in what appears to be a chronological order. The only thing is the word process. That just kind of struck me as odd as the way it was placed and the location it was placed. Typically, and maybe this isn't normal through all practices, but if you read, per se a construction document, it's either on the bottom or on the right. So that would be neat if you flipped 180. But the more I thought about that, it might be awkward if it was flipped 180 and kind of running off the top of the page.
And it's at the end of this sort of portfolio piece, and so the way that it's grounded now, Max, it kind of frames and brackets the work, so I can see why you'd be maybe ambivalent about that. That's an interesting point.
Right. So that's all I have for you now, but I will upload the Word document with my paragraph edits.
Okay.
Hmm. What are you saying, Brock?
Everything just froze up, Mark, like the screen, and
Yeah, I can see
couldn't hear
everybody's.
anything.
I can see everybody live and in real time now. Usually that happens when someone is uploading something.
Oh, okay.
Kyle must be struggling to, or Max must be struggling to load something right now.
His file's pretty large, I believe.
Oh, my apologies.
No worries.
Max, were you going to screen share something?
Yeah, I can. Sorry.
Or were you just going to share that with him? Share the document.
The document is on Google Drive.
Okay, I don't have that open right now, so
I can screen share.
okay.
You mean, are you referring to Kyle's review or my own review?
Yes, yeah, your review of Kyle.
No. I was just going to load that to Google Drive. It's just a Word document
Okay.
in terms of grammatical errors. So
Okay, so we don't need to go into that. We'll move on then. Does anyone else have anything to say about Kyle's work?
I have a
Okay.
question.
Go ahead.
Was it an individual assignment or a group assignment?
It was a group assignment.
Okay, because that wasn't mentioned in the...
It's mentioned in the essay.
Oh, I must have skipped it. My bad.
That's okay.
So can you, if you could just maybe look at your essay for a moment, Kyle. I'll just go through these kind of in rapid fire. You should capitalize the first letter of the class, Intro to Digital Fabrication, and I think you say it twice in the first paragraph. You capitalize the first word in the sentence, which is spot on, but I think the class title needs to be capitalized as well. You also say drop ceiling, and that's kind of the way you and I would talk about it if we were in the office working together, or in the on the job site. But really, it's a suspended ceiling, and so I think that would be a more precise word. And also, in the ambition to be a little bit more precise with your words, you say the word next. You know, you're talking about something next to something else. Again, we'll talk about that. You know, look at the hair on that guy next to us, right? We would never say, look at the hair on that guy adjacent to us. You would look at me like I was, you know, a freak from Mars if I said it like that. So when we talk about things in a colloquial way, it's appropriate to say it like that. But in this essay, it's actually going to be more precise if you say the word adjacent and replace it from next. And you say the word taken down. I might say dismantled, which is kind of a three-nickel word, or maybe it's better as removed. But taken down is kind of it's just a little less precise. And then on the images, if you can adjust the images, Kyle, on the plate where it's all images, so that the white cross between the four images on both sides is the same width or the same dimension, it might cause you to have to stretch the images. That will make the page appear even more resolved, because it's a very handsome page. But I just want to suggest that it could be a lot better if you think of it that way. Again, just like in first year, we prompt you to think about ground as well as figure when you're talking about figure ground. When you're laying out these sheets, you need to be looking at figure and ground actually has a lot of importance here. And that was my 2 cents. Shana, do you want to go? You want to go next?
Yep.
Okay.
Let me just screen share.
So Brock, the frozen screen wasn't frozen at all. I was just waiting for Max to do something or share something, and I wasn't paying attention or something like that.
No, no problem.
Okay, go ahead, Shayna. We have your image.
All right, can you guys see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I chose to do my construction management course that I took as an elective. Construction management was a course designed to aid in the understanding of the construction process. The class's main focus was the comprehension of the construction delivery methods, primarily the comparison between traditional construction delivery systems and the commonly used fast tracking and phasing of construction projects. Within this topic, an emphasis was put on effective project planning, scheduling, budgeting, contract administration, and agreements. Through discussion boards, short assignments, and the semester project, students were able to get a thorough understanding of the course content by conversations and case studies. The semester project was the most significant assignment in the course. The objective of the project was to select a constructed building and delve into the details with respect to its coordination in the construction process. The idea was to apply the research and knowledge that we had obtained throughout the semester and apply it to a real-world project that had been completed. An emphasis was to be placed on the positive and negative aspects of the project that aided or hindered the process. The subject project was the Eli and Edith Broad Art Museum on the campus of Michigan State University in Lansing, Michigan. Plans for this 46,000 square foot building completed in November 2012 were set in motion after realizing the need for a larger space to house a growing art collection and expanding program. Each party involved in the project, the owner, architect, and construction manager, had their own concerns and goals, as well as roles within the project. There were many complexities in the project which caused difficulties and delays. Early project planning and constant communication were two essential factors in overcoming these obstacles. The use of BIM software and coordination and fabrication of the project were key in the success of the project as well. And for this spread, it's pretty simple. Most of this project was the paper that we had to write to go along with it. Other than the cover sheet, those were pretty much the only images that we had. So obviously, one side of the spread is the text, the narrative, and then the other side is just an image of the project completed, and then just some of the key people that were involved in the project, the highlights. So
Okay, there it is.
that's about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, so this is another one of those classes where, like a lot of the electives tonight, I'm sure they're going to be difficult to illustrate, right, graphically or
Right.
figuratively, and so I appreciate that struggle. But it is a nice image, and you were there. You probably took some good images.
Right.
To sort of consider, you didn't necessarily have to use kind of a stock image. You could have used one of your own, but I like this image because it shows the campus and the building and the site in the foreground. Are there who are your reviewers tonight? Who's going to comment first?
I'm one of them.
Okay, Ryan, go ahead.
I really don't have a lot of criticism, or really much of any. I posted a Word file with just some minor grammatical things, adding a word here or subtracting one there.
Okay.
I guess one of the things I did really like, the text, I thought it was nicely written. I think the text itself is nicely laid out, and I like the alignment across both pages. I think it's a nice looking spread. I guess one question I'll bring up that's just kind of a general question regarding the essays is, should we be indenting the paragraphs or not? I haven't been in an English course of sorts in a long time, and I don't know.
I think there's two ways to do it. This is one of them. Indenting is another. When you indent them, it allows you to collapse them so that it reads the way it would be if it were in a textbook or a novel or a nonfiction book. Not indenting them with a space makes it read more like a business letter, and where the where the paragraphs are more discrete elements within the narrative or the body of the text. And I think it's up to you really to sort of think about that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's a nice clean look to not have them indented. So I think that's really all I have, though.
Thanks, Ryan. Who else?
I was the other one.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Like Ryan, I didn't have much to say, and Shayna explained the reason of just having the image, but I will go ahead and. I liked the writing. Didn't have much on that, but I just thought I didn't know if there was anything or any diagrams that you can find online or something that tries to connect with what you said in your essay about the objective, which was to select a constructed building, which you did. You can show that image and then respect the coordination and construction process. Maybe just a few pictures of that, but you already stated that it was hard to find something like that and to actually show it. But this was just my idea of what if you were to have that information to align the text and the image itself, and then put 3 pictures if you wanted to keep it on one spread. That was just my suggestion.
Ronnie, I've really appreciated how you have taken fairly seriously the pages as an opportunity to help your classmates improve their work graphically by marking on them the way that you do. I've seen this now a few times, and I value it. I have to believe that Shayna does tonight as well. I mean, even if they don't, even if your colleagues don't agree with you, you're showing them that you're really looking at the work, and I think that's got to make people feel fairly important, and I appreciate that. Shayna, one thing, was there anything else, Ronnie?
No.
Does anyone else have anything else to comment on? Go ahead, Yusuf.
Hi, Shayna.
Hi.
Regarding the project itself, I was wondering who did you contact to know more details about the project?
No, I can't. Paul Daniels was my structures professor, and he was also he worked on the project, so he knew a lot of the details about it.
Maybe
he was my contact for it.
I see. So maybe you could also mention that, because I know I did the same project and I did the same building. To me, it was a good experience to contact. I contacted Zainer, who did the sheet metal work for the building. If I'm writing about this, I would talk a little bit more about the subcontractor, or in your case, the structural trade that how you coordinated with them and find out more information. Maybe give a little bit of details about the project. Maybe that would make it a little bit more interesting.
You're cutting out a lot. I'm only getting like every couple words. I don't know if it's my connection or yours.
No, it is. It's breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I had to change my bandwidth. Okay, so hello?
Yep, we're here.
Okay. So I guess I was saying for Shayna, I also did the same project in the same building.
Right.
So okay, so you got that. Okay. So I was saying that maybe it'll make the writing more interesting to talk a little bit more about your contact with SDI, and just a couple of specific details about what you learned about the difficulties of that project.
Okay. Yeah.
I appreciate that. One thing, if I may add, and maybe this comment that Yusuf is making is something that you can blend with my comment, and then include it for your reflective essay, or at least consider it, Shana. And one is that, you know, when you met Alec Hathaway there, he talked a lot about the process of delivery, and this is a fairly significant example of, you know, architect of record, an AOR, a local AOR, and an out-of-state architect, not just out-of-state, out of the U.S., and not just an architect out in London, but clearly one of the marquee firms in the world whose work is, you know, ridiculously complicated, and therefore is grounded in a necessity to model the work as a thing that then is transported, you know, to a local firm that then reconfigures the model and represents it into construction drawings. So this is an important building in terms of the delivery of architecture, one that kind of overturns the way that architects typically do their work, which is in AutoCAD or Revit, and communicating between you know, London and East Lansing, or London and Troy in the case of IDS. So, I mean, that to me is pretty impressive. It's pretty mind-boggling, and you could maybe talk a little bit more about that in your reflective essay by sharing what you have heard Paul Daniels say about this process, or talking to Chuck Lewis at IDS once just to get more well-rounded feedback on it, and then maybe comparing it to what y'all do in Mount Pleasant as a delivery system, and comment on the sort of benefits of one over the other, the concerns of doing it the way that Hadid and IDS did it here, and what will the delivery system in the future be? Would be kind of interesting if you know, you could speculate on that. I'm not saying that you have to do these things. I'm just trying to cause you to think about the reflective essay in much more larger, maybe more speculative terms. Because I think ultimately in 5 or 10 years when you look back on this essay, you'll smile at your, maybe at one moment, your naivete, not just you, Shana, but all of you, your naivete and yet your vision of the future, which could be very interesting for you to sort of talk about. But this is clearly an important building. That's why we went to go see it together. And for me, the project is an extraordinary one from an architectural and site situation, as well as from a delivery situation. You really want to, you know, describe this as exemplary at like the highest sort of degree or the highest caliber.
Okay.
Alrighty, let's move on. Ronnie, do you want to go next?
Yep.
Sure. You see it?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I remember I had to do, this was the elective because I did the core course before, so I found my ecological issues stuff.
I do.
I'm going to start with the essay. Ecological issues was the course that explored the environment and ecosystems in relation to architecture. There's only one planet, Earth, with a finite of resources, and the world's population continues to grow, which are some of the ecological issues facing us today. The question is, how will we, as a profession, influence and respond to them? The major topic of the course was to understand the political and social social nature of ecological issues of the environment by identifying solutions addressing those issues. The fact that the profession of architecture. That makes sense. We want to introduce sustainability within the built environment, and as an exploration study, we visited 2 LEED certified buildings. This exercise provided the first-hand experience in order to understand sustainability to inform our opinions of the topic. Phase 2 involved waste not, want not. This can be referred to one man's trash as another man's treasure. The objective of the project was to reuse materials that were going to be thrown out. Working at a local sports store, they often threw away many products that can be repurposed. They had an abundance of pellets ready to be tossed out. After collecting a few pellets, the idea of a bench came to mind. From one pellet, from scrap wood, the bench took its form. Then I have the images on the right of the actual materials, the pellets, some scrap wood, just some screws, and then the images of how it came together. The 2 pellets, cutting it in half, make it into a bench using the scrap wood, and putting on some legs, support, using actual trees to make some arms, and there's the bench. That's it.
Okay, who are your reviewers?
I was one of them.
Go ahead.
I have a markup on Google Drive for you. It was just a couple like grammatical errors. Maybe consider rephrasing a couple sentences. Let me see if I can bring up. Actually, I'll just screen share really
Go ahead.
quick. Get to the right one. Oops, too far. Okay, there were just a couple things. Restructuring sentences. There were a couple run-on sentences. And then capitalizing, like for phase 1, capitalizing 1. I don't know if that's my personal preference or if that's actually what you should do, but just to consider it. The word spacing in the paragraphs looks, it doesn't look uniform. Maybe consider changing the spacing so that it's a little easier to read. A couple sentences, like this 4th sentence, looks like they're all scrunched together, and then a couple are spaced really far apart. So just taking a look at that. As far as the layout for the images, maybe consider adding some text captions describing the process that you went through. And then it seems like some of them are spaced. I use the word oddly. I don't know if that's really a word, but consider formatting them differently. Maybe aligning them on each spread, or I'm not sure. But it just seems like they're not really placed with a purpose. And then I think my final comment was just, did you do just the one project then, or did you have to go through the 3 different?
No, I did all 3, but it was just too much. It's a lot of information on there. I didn't want to highlight all of it. I just wanted to take like the one that I liked the best and put it on there.
Okay. I guess that was my only other comment. If you had the other projects, if you wanted to maybe focus, since you have the 4 different kind of pages, the one with the text and then the 3 with the images, if you wanted to split it up to kind of highlight each project that you did, or if this one was your favorite and you wanted to focus on this. So that's just something to think about.
Yeah.
Well, Ronnie, you should appreciate Shana the way I'm sure Shana appreciates you for the way she's engaged in your work. I think that really helps you a lot. I think you know, this is really helpful, and I'm going to definitely encourage everyone next year to do what you and Shana are doing. So I appreciate that. After Shana, who is the other reviewer for Ronnie? Go ahead, Yusuf.
Hi, Ronnie.
Hi.
I did post on the drive my comments, but still I'm going to do a screen share for now. Okay, so I guess before I start talking about the written component, I just want to note that your cover sheet looks good. It's very catchy, and just wanted to comment on that compared to the one previously.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's a few notes and also like a few things that needed to be possibly more in the essay. It's the word count, it seems kind of low, so it's about 215 words. So you still have space to add more details to the project. But the first thing that kind of like I wasn't sure about is like when you were talking about there's only one planet Earth with a finite of resources, and world's population continue to grow, which are some of the ecological issues facing us today. That sentence make it sound that world's population is the issue at hand, and I know from your project it's not. So maybe consider rewording that somehow.
Good point.
And then yeah, like just like Shana says, like what was your experience? What was like how did you document these things? Where did you find this material? Like maybe more detailed. And then I copied and pasted the text from your PDFs, and there's 2 font types in the paragraph. So just want you to be aware of that.
Okay, it's probably from InDesign.
You could actually notice that, and I think that goes back to Shana's comments about the kerning or spacing between the paragraphs and the spacing in a sentence. Because when you look at that PDF, it looks like the second paragraph needs to stretch out a little bit more for one thing, and for another, it ends up being very difficult to read in the sense that you wouldn't even want to look at it because it's so dense with characters and letters. So this suggestion Yusuf is making about making sure the font is consistent is probably one of the solutions to making it read easier.
Right. And also, my comment about aligning the images right now, I don't understand. I can't follow your process. Like I don't know. Okay, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So you need to align it in a way, and also like give it text. Say like this is how I started. This is collecting the material. This is assembling the material. And so forth. So these are my comments. And then page number to me, the text of it is too big. So maybe consider that or keep that in mind. And then you mentioned that you had other projects, but this one you felt is more successful than others. So, Professor,
you're breaking up again, Yusuf.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can.
Okay, I guess my internet is not working well today. 1 second. Okay, so my question to the professor is, like Ronnie mentioned that there was other projects, but he felt strongly that this is more successful than other projects. What do you think about adding projects that weren't necessarily successful, but you learned from it that what you did wasn't productive? Would that be beneficial to add in a portfolio?
Well, I'm not sure that I got all of the question. I think I got one of every 8 words. So, I mean, I guess the question is that if a project is not successful, or if the project is not as successful as an individual had hoped for, should that student include it in the portfolio? Is that your question? Well, what do you think the answer to that question might be? What would you recommend yourself?
Well, I'm okay. I guess it depends on who's looking at it. Some people really just want pretty pictures, but to me, if I'm giving that out, and if I really want the person to actually read it, I would want them to know that I went through the process and I found out that what I did wasn't successful and that I learned from it. So I would personally document that.
I don't disagree with you. At one moment, the portfolio is like a car on the showroom floor, right? It's the vehicle that's going to have the Bose stereo system, and it's going to have the leather interior. It's going to have the exotic paint color and maybe some decals. It's going to have the big wheels. You know, it's going to have the big price sticker on it. And it's the same thing with model homes or interiors for a development. They're going to show the best stuff rather than showing what you could get, or if your budget was less, what you could get. That's what the used car lot is for. That's what the neighbor's house is for in terms of a development. So I think it's a good question. Ultimately, though, you know, there are places in the portfolio that those not so successful but informative efforts can perhaps graphically appear in the reflective essay as a way of populating the essay with things other than just words. So, you know, if you were to include the other projects, for example, Ronnie, from this course, from this particular course in the other essay, you could call it ecological issues project, you know, or phase 1, for example. You know, you could key it in so that, you know, it makes sense in the larger sort of reading of your portfolio. I personally like to show the breadth of the work. I know that not everything is going to be successful, and so I appreciate, you know, Yusuf's position. I appreciate the concern for breadth and depth, but not at the expense of one over the other. So for you to sort of only write about the one and for you to only show the one could be problematic, especially if the class really sort of discussed a lot of other things. So it's something I think the student has to wrestle with, Yusuf. But you know, I think my position is fairly clear, but it's not an expectation that I have. It's just a suggestion. And ultimately, I love the concept of failure. I think that's kind of an interesting possibility in a school project at the graduate level, that a project could experience failure, it could experience disappointment, and it could still be quite beautiful. It could still be provocative and worth including in the package, so long as you frame the narrative in such a way that while the project may have failed, the experience didn't, and this is why, and this is what we learned from those failures. And you know, offices have failures. Offices have not roof collapse failures. I don't mean that. I just mean maybe a failure if you design a house for a subdivision and it never sells. You know, that's kind of like a failure, for example. And I'm just spitballing here, but I do value the, you know, the reflection on projects that didn't quite make the grade in the course of your career, because it's quite possible that you didn't hit a home run on every project, that you didn't hit it out of the park. So I think there's room for that. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Just on that note, actually, on the next project or next week, the project was a failure. However, because it's failure, we succeeded with the knowledge that we knew, that we gained from that project, which
Right.
is very interesting, and that's where it's going to show into my portfolio. However, I don't think it'll be necessary for me to put that in this this part, because these files are getting so big, and I know when you want to apply online to a firm, some of these they only ask for a 4 megabyte portfolio. I mean, mine's already at almost 25 megabytes. Um, I know we can go further more into depth on our websites, but when we send our portfolio over to SOM or whoever we want to be, I mean, we're gonna have to dumb this back down to get it. I mean, to the right specific information that we need. And I mean, unless you guys know, I'm asking the class of how to actually do that, taking this and make it into a 4 megabyte file from a 25 megabyte file.
Yeah, I mean that's another good question. If you're conversing with SOM, and I think you should be, then Ronnie, then you're probably sending your website to them. You're not probably not sending this portfolio. You're probably doing something else. But if you're printing your portfolio for an interview at Smith Group, for example, then that's the audience. So you need to sort of imagine who the audience is, and that's something that Yusuf has been, faithfully concerned about all semester long, and I think that's good advice. That's a good concern.
Yeah.
Okay. So Shane has given you some extensive editing. I think there's some casual words in there that you need to improve, and I hope that Shana caught them. I'm sure she did, because she's always spot on with this stuff. But I think the bigger concern is the brevity, the shortness of the essay, and I think that's something that you can elaborate on, particularly with Yusuf's comments. But I'll let you rebut.
Can I go over the stuff that I did go over from last week, or is that going to be at the end of the class?
No, go ahead. Just go ahead and screen share it.
To show what Yusuf was commenting on, this is my new cover. Basically, almost like it's gonna run from the front end to the back. It's almost like a barcode.
Right.
With all my projects there. I don't know what you feel about that, but this is.
It looks good. It's very handsome.
This is something that I started working on, but now I'm gonna take your idea for the last class or last week that we talked about. This was the new spread and trying to actually put everything together, but it still doesn't read very well. I'm gonna take your idea and make it into a mosaic and put as much as I can. But this is what I've done so far.
Yeah, so you're on the right track. I mean, so like when I look at this plate, for example, it seems much more saturated than like the next plate. But when you look at your own portfolio plates from this course, Ronnie, it tells a much more graduated, methodical process that is ultimately, I think, very impressive in its depth, and that's what was missing in last week's effort.
Okay. So my next approach was to actually do what you just told me now and see how that works out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else?
That's it.
Anyone else have any comments for Ronnie? Okay, let's move on. Yusuf, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can. It's not breaking up. Shana will be the first to tell you, though, because she and I both were struggling to hear more than one word out of every 8.
Yeah, I lowered the bandwidth just like Casey suggested. Thanks, Casey. Okay, another screen share. Okay, so I had the option between project management and construction management since I took both classes. So I went with project management because I found it more relevant to the architectural office And I'm not saying the experience from the construction management was invaluable. It was, and you know, I work for a subcontractor company, so I know more about what's going on in the back house. Anyways, so project management. I'm just gonna go right into the essay. Okay. So the focus of this course was on the knowledge and skills required to navigate an architectural project from conception to completion. Projects included project delivery methods, the design and delivery process, project team organization and management, discipline coordination, team and contractor communication, project financial management, time management, conflict resolution, project manual development, construction administration, and cost estimating. The class also provided insight on the responsibilities of a project manager, project initiation, proposal writing, project planning, quality control, procedures, project closeout, budget development, and terminology of AIA contracts. Just what is a project manager anyways? This was one of the first questions this course aimed to answer. In general, a project manager is a person who takes over all responsibility of the coordination efforts of others, directed at ensuring a desired result is achieved within time and budget constraints. There are different types of project managers. The role of a PM can vary from office to office, person to person, or situation to situation. Some PMs are project type oriented, others might be project management, paperwork, or marketing oriented. Another point of emphasis of a PM might be design or technical orientation. As a project manager, conducting scheduling and budgets are key to any project. There were two main guidelines of developing project budget, bottom-up and top-down method. Bottom-up method, it starts with estimating hours entry and hourly costs, totaling them up, adding consulting fees, and arriving at a total fee. It is beneficial to start estimating the construction documents CD phase first. The CD phase is the most quantifiable and predictable phase of a project. Therefore, it can be used to extrapolate a total project fee. Top-down method, it begins with an overall estimation, taking out consulting engineering costs to see what's left for the architectural fee, then distributing hours by staff type across the phases of a project. One of the guidelines used in this process is to work towards a rule of thumb on how much work is done per phase. And then on the right side you have the worksheet for the bottom up, and then the top down phase. That's all.
Okay, good, thanks. Who are your commentators tonight?
Ronnie and Brock.
Brock, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. Let's see if I can screen share this.
Okay.
Can you guys see it?
Well, what I see is your computer.
Okay, that's not good.
Click on a different...
Open up your PDF. It might be on the bottom.
Yeah, I did, Ronnie. Is it coming up now?
No, not yet.
I was having some issues with this last week.
There it is.
You guys have it?
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
All right, so the first thing, Yusuf, I don't know with your other courses if you've been including the term, the year, and who the professor was. I think that might be a beneficial thing to do. And then as you see through your write-up, there's just a few grammatical errors. Project manager, you might just want to start out after the first time you state project manager, just do the PM, and then so as you state it down here, You've in here as well. You've covered it beforehand, so people know what the PM is. Clearly, I know what it is and you know what it is, but just signify it off the bat. And I guess you can go through those. I would break up that paragraph between bottom-up method and top-down method. And also the spreadsheet caption that you have is a little bit blurry. I'm not sure if when you print it, if it was just a lower resolution. You might want to just bump that up. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have.
Did you underline budgets?
Yeah, I did. It says conducting scheduling and budgets.
Yeah,
so
it needs to be budget.
That should be budgets. Also, I can go through these if you want.
No, I just want to make sure you caught that.
Yeah.
Thanks. Anything else?
That was pretty much it. Just it seems pretty basic.
Okay, Ronnie, did you have some comments? We got it. Ronnie, I'm not getting any audio if you're talking. Sorry. Now we got you.
Yeah. Okay. First was to take out any hyphenations from the format the text box without hyphenations so that it can read better.
Right.
This is at 100%, and I still can't read, as Barak said, the actual charts. As well, I know from taking this class, you got like a fake project. Like, okay, this is, you have to make up your own office building. Maybe put like some of the project attributes of like square feet, or just the name that you gave it, a title or something, and then go on to the construction costs and how everything was. But
can you repeat that? I don't think I followed that suggestion, but I'm interested in it.
To add like I believe that we were given like a fake building to make, like your own office building, just the name of one. So that's why you have like a project.
Right. So it's a real building, or
just a fake building that you made like office building in Royal Oak or whatever. Just
fake, a fake building.
A fake building, yes, a building that you make up, or.
Okay, like a hypothetical.
Hypothetical, yes, building that we started off with the semester.
So what are you saying about what would you
add
do?
that? Maybe just add that information on there.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay. So I guess, Yosef, the bigger challenge will be to make the resolution of the charts a little bit more legible, and I'm not sure how that happens for you. And then the other thing might be that the current format of this sheet creates maybe because of the project and maybe because of the struggle to do something that's graphically, splendid for project management. There's an awful lot of the white background compared to the text, compared to the graphics. So maybe the chart is larger to help fill up some of that graphics and to also promote more increased legibility. It's just something to consider tweaking a little bit. I think you're fairly close on it, but like we have seen tonight, several two-plate projects, two-plate portfolio examples tonight, and they have a simple image and they have a simple text approach, and I think you're right there with all of them for that matter. So I don't think you have to make up something to make it better. I think it's just a matter of tightening up the composition so that there's a little bit more balance between the background of white and the foreground of content. Let's go to, let's see, Max, you want to go ahead? Cassie, did you not review anybody tonight?
I did, Max.
Okay, so you're going to be up next then.
Max and Brock, but Brock's work I didn't.
Okay. Okay, Max, you're back. If you're going to screen share something, let me know so I don't disappoint Brock and create 30 seconds or 40 seconds or 50 seconds of dead air.
All right, I am screen sharing.
Lovely.
So I actually have one PDF that's the whole book. I'll apologize to my reviewers. I didn't upload it till last night. But it is the whole book in format. Last week I actually presented my non-architecture elective, so this week it's my EDS. There was actually quite a few spreads, so I understand if you didn't get a review at all, primarily because I kind of presented them as one whole group per se. So I'll just flip through to the master plan one. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, so this was, I actually had combined my both design studios because in both of them I looked at the Holland master plan, and in both of them I did an architectural piece within 200 yards of each other. So I kind of reformatted how I was going to present all the work for both design studios. So the first group or presentation or plates is regarding just the master plan within Holland. So I can read the project record. Around the turn of the century, Holland had begun to establish itself as a place of destination. It no longer is simply a stop along the way, but rather a city that maintains its character and history while continuing to grow and evolve. Along the way, Holland listens to its people and hopes it has a sharper vision of what the future needs to look like. In 2007, Holland embarked on a mission to update both the strategic plan of the downtown and the overall city's master plan. In 2014, the task for this project was to take the results, analyze the conclusions, and provide another update based upon research and the application of urban practices. The project began by taking a look at the history of Holland from its earliest development to its current state. First, connections between Holland and the Oglethorpe Plan by Thomas D. Wilson became evident when looking at the growth and structure of Holland. Identification of links between the development of wards within Holland and the early establishment of planned urbanization gives strength to Holland's city grid. Secondly, elements based upon the work of Kevin Lynch helped pinpoint areas of strengths and weaknesses, as well as recognizing places of opportunity like the waterfront, which is located within the city limits. Finally, the research led to certain aspects within the city that needed attention. Primarily, the downtown core is defined by the existing built environment. This, coupled with the underdeveloped eastern and western gateways, began to establish a focus of need within the city. With the help of a precedent study titled The College Avenue Master Plan by Morphosis and the sharp intellect of Leon Creer, the master plan began to take shape. The main components of the master plan are the transit hub at the eastern gateway and the establishment of Holland along the western waterfront. Connections within the city are pushed in a vernacular style of movement to generate a sense of place. So this slide here on the left shows kind of the history or the research that was done in regards to understanding the city and its context. This is their conceptual master plan image on the left and kind of a projected growth diagram that I created from some of their documents. And then this was the final master plan that I proposed in ADS2. And so without doing extensive, should I present the other part, Mark, too, or just
sure, go ahead.
Get a response on this one? Okay, so then moving on, I did work on 3 different sites in the western gateway of downtown Holland. And so I've kind of titled it the Civic Center District because the Civic Center is kind of the main focal point of the area. So I guess I can read this one as well. Building upon the previously crafted master plan, the next objective was to establish a few projects that would serve as catalysts to engage and excite the community. First off, these 3 sites were selected due to the determination that moving westward and establishing Holland as a location with a waterfront was critical to the continual growth of the city. Secondly, although in rough shape, the iconic and historic Civic Center is located in the gap between downtown and the waterfront, making it a prime suspect in the site selection process. Project number 1 was primarily a design and program study that provided another connection between Holland and the private university that calls Holland its home, Hope College. With record growth in the past few years, Hope College is expanding its residential capacity to support incoming students. This mixed-use development recognizes the need for flexible housing while also understanding the way businesses operate. The mixed-use development is composed of commercial, retail, and residential while allowing for flexibility to plug and play the programmed elements based upon the market condition. Project number 2 is a mixed-use development that will support businesses, the local 8th Street Marketplace, and the Civic Center. This building is programmed with retail, commercial, and hospitality. Retail on the ground floor allows for community engagement with the local farmers market. Entrepreneurs and businesses will occupy the middle 2 floors as it provides a wide range of options for each individual tenant. Capping off the top 2 floors is a boutique hotel that has the opportunity to support the needs of the Civic Center, neighboring businesses, and incoming tourists. Project 3 is the catalyst of the whole push westward to the waterfront. The Holland Civic Center is a city gem, and over the years there have been arguments to either renovate or rebuild the Civic Center as its current state does not allow it to reach its full potential. Through a collaborative analysis, it was determined that the renovation of the Civic Center was a viable option. The newly renovated Civic Center gives the city an expanded indoor-outdoor event space, adequate support services, and an enhanced lobby to open its doors to the community. So I kind of highlighted each of the 3 projects in order of which they'll be shown. So this was the design and program studies adjacent to the Civic Center. This was the mixed-use development that was referenced along with a few of the floor plans. This was then the final project that was referenced, which was the Holland Civic Center, as well as its floor plans and well. And then it goes on to my next ecological issues.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay,
that's it.
Thanks. Cassie, you have the floor.
Okay, not too many suggestions on the text. I only did the second text. For some reason, I thought you had done the first part. Number 1, try to cut out like 60 words.
Yeah.
So you get a little closer to your 300, and then just take out some of the casual words you use, like first off and rough shape. And then you could probably do without like the number for project 1, project number. Take out that.
Right. Yep.
This, I forgot what page it started on. Like I said, for some reason I thought you had done that. Give this text a little more breathing room between the images. These line up at the top, and then on these they're like midway, and then on the next one you have them lined up different again. So if possible, try to make those consistent throughout how you're labeling.
Yep.
Maybe some text on why you included these images or what the difference is. And then this one pulls your eye a little too much to it, so try to fade it out a little bit. Or
yep.
I don't think it's bigger. Maybe it's slightly bigger. Concern on this maybe hitting the page better, whatever it's called. I forgot for some reason.
Yep.
And for some reason the balance kind of bugged me. I don't know if anybody else gets it, or is bugged by it, but maybe bumping this guy up a little more to kind of balance that white space. I don't know, it might be okay when you see it with a spine, but that's kind of the same for this one. I don't know, whatever. That's it. So if
You're saying create more of a teeter-totter effect, you know, something higher.
yeah. I mean, maybe it will look okay when it's in the binding, but for some reason the balance, it's not working for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it for my comments.
Okay. Who else?
I was the other one.
Okay, go ahead.
I posted a write-up on the drive with, it has overall comments and what I did catch in the rating of the write-ups. But the one thing was on your hand-drawn page about, it's a totally different text. It's your downtown graph.
Can you open that up, Max?
Yeah, I'm getting to it here.
Are you talking about the rendered master plan, Kyle?
Yeah.
Okay.
The text under it is a completely different text than anywhere else in your portfolio. I went through it to try and find. You might have passed it.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah.
This image?
No, left.
The hand-drawn one.
The hand-drawn. This one on the left.
Oh, yeah, that's primarily because that was part of that's a graphic from their master plan of kind of their overall concept.
Okay.
So that text is from their report, probably not from mine, so I probably could remove that. But good catch.
Yeah, that was one of those things where I was going through and I'm like, okay, it just threw me off.
Yep.
Then Cassie picked up on one of the other comments of, I'm pretty sure you mentioned before that who you're publishing through, they considered a spine already in the binding area, but a lot of your pages seem to like flow into where it'd get cut off by the binding. Was one of, but I'm pretty sure you mentioned something about it previously.
Yeah, a lot of my pages flow kind of over, but in my Photoshop file I have grid lines that kind of show me the safe zone.
Okay.
And like this one's tough to tell exactly where the binding is just because it's so off-centered.
Yeah.
But I have been trying to keep an eye on that.
Are you going for full bleeds through the binding in some of your plates, Max?
Primarily only this one.
Yeah.
And this one, the full bleed is kind of just to the left of the downtown core, one block over. So it's really in a non-important per se area. Okay. But I don't recall any other major full bleeds other than like these renderings in the bottom left. They do go into the gutter.
Yep.
Per se, to the direct center, and then bleed to the left, but not a full bleed.
All right.
Over the gutter.
Kyle, anything else?
Not right offhand. There's a little bit I caught in the write-ups, and I mentioned it on the document I posted on the Drive forum.
Okay.
Good, thanks. So this is kind of a sampling of maybe a different approach, and it's something that Max was happy to explain to me, and I gave him the sort of permission to do that, although he didn't need permission. He told me he wanted to do it, and that's what he was going to do. So I didn't necessarily quarrel with him on that, but that's sort of the basis for this conversation tonight in terms of blending, in terms of like linking both classes together. You yourselves may have thought about that for your own ordering of the portfolio, whether it's the website or the portfolio, as it relates to the order that the classes are organized within the book. You do not need to organize them in the way that we've organized the syllabus for this class. That's a different thing altogether. But you could do something like what Max is doing, which is to place ADS1 before ADS2. So that's something to think about. Max, I think the thing that I think is important that you've done tonight, and that we've talked about this, was the recasting of the first semester's design work into the larger question of the master plan. And even though the master plan had a more prominent role in your research in the second semester, you know, I think it ends up showing well that for your work in ADS 1 and 2, you ended up doing 3 projects, and I think that's really the punchline here. So I want to make sure that, you know, everyone understands that you did it that way. Make sure that the notations or the headers for each of the 3 projects is revealed or demonstrated as people are doing a page turn. You know, so that just
Right.
make sure that that's covered.
Yep.
Does anyone else have anything else for Max? Okay, good. The work looks very nice, Max. So you should be happy about that. You know, we just got done talking with Yusuf about that sort of balance between white and you know, between background and ground, or background and foreground, figure and ground, and you know, you and sometimes Kyle, or you and sometimes Ryan pushed that conversation to a very big extreme. And yet, you know, maybe even more extreme than in some of, you know, Yusuf's condition on his course tonight. But, you know, it still looks good. So there's no rule, Yusuf, there's no rule for this. It is a visual rule. It is a visual composition. But I think for Max, the artwork looks good with a lot of white around it, and then it looks good when there's artwork that's highly saturated and highly, you know, dense or sort of pervasive in your plate, so that you create kind of an interesting rhythm with your graphics, Max, that I think will help read well. Let's see, who else is up? Cassie, you want to go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me grab my text. Adaptive reuse and rehab involve the examination of buildings and their original use versus how they evolve through time. Main topics of discussion included building use and application, smart growth planning, success in maintaining architectural heritage, economic productivity and job creation, a building's authenticity, cultural significance, and creating a sustainable historic environment. Material use and application, as well as any significant changes to a building's original interior or exterior structure and layout, was also analyzed. To come to an understanding of a building's reuse, case studies, historic buildings, and policies were all evaluated. The Board of Water and Light's Ottawa Street Station in Lansing, Michigan is an example of industrial redevelopment. The former power plant was built in 1938 and has been renovated into a state-of-the-art national headquarters for accident fund mutual insurance. This case study is significant in that it demonstrates EPA outlined smart growth strategies, enhances the local tax base, stimulates the local economy, revitalizes an area, and provides employment through its use. This study can be adapted and applied to the redevelopment of dead industrial zones along riverfronts everywhere to help encourage transformation of these prime real estate areas for cities. This building in particular boasts waterfront property, a downtown location minutes away from Michigan's state capitol building, and Art Deco architecture. This study also demonstrates reuse challenges, reframing 10 stories of steel framing all inside the existing masonry structure, and how they can be overcome to keep the building heritage. Proof of its success in converting a historic building into a sustainable, energy-efficient office building, the project has been awarded LEED Gold certification. Project cost $182 million and included renovation of the existing building and extensive repairs to the exterior masonry walls, steel structure repairs, window replacement, and a 105 square foot addition. 1,000.
Okay.
And then now looking at this, the layout, I think it was Ronnie that made the comment to Shayna about the reordering of her text on the bottom. And I think for this, I do want to take this, move it down here, do 3 rows of text on the bottom, all images on the top, so it's almost like this one where the text all lines up across the bottom and the images are on the top.
Yep, I agree.
I don't know, but I think it takes like stepping away from it and looking at it again to realize how it should be.
Which is the sort of talking points for the conversation I'm going to have tonight with you guys about the reflective essay. But good point. This is a wonderful. This is a Christman did this building. Is this for them?
Yes.
Right.
They were the construction manager.
They were the CM, but they also occupy this building, if I'm not mistaken.
Shayna, you did it once.
Yeah, they're in the Mutual building, actually.
Oh, are they? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, they're really similar, but this is the Mutual Insurance building.
That's what it is. Okay, thanks. Okay, so who's going to be talking about Cassie's work tonight?
I was one of them.
Go ahead.
Cassie, I'll upload the Word document that kind of goes over the narrative of the project. But in regards to the overall spread, I think, yeah, definitely on the second page, reordering, kind of restructuring the picture and the text layout would be beneficial. I think one thing, and maybe when redoing that caught me off guard a little bit, was when I first looked at it, I thought before reading it there was 2 projects that you're identifying, because on the far right of the second page you kind of broken up kind of the data that defines the project, which I think if it was all together it might be a little bit extensive, but by breaking it up I was trying to figure out if there was 2 different projects or not, but not a whole lot of critique in regards to overall structure and layout, but when you upload the new layout, I'll definitely take a look at it.
Okay.
Thanks, Max. And who else?
I was the other person, Mark.
Go ahead, Brock.
Let's see if I can screen share. Cassie, I uploaded some comments for you to the G Drive.
I don't know if you froze, but I can share them.
He's frozen.
Yes.
So that means he's sharing something.
It's not giving me the option, Cassie, to...
Okay, they're shared on my screen.
Okay, let's go there.
All right, so for under fall 2013, again, kind of with Yusuf, maybe consider adding the professor and the course number under there. In the upper left image, you have the before, and then I'm not sure if this is some sort of like conceptual rendering before the building was completed. The image is a bit blurry. I don't know if you want to put that it's an after image or conceptual, whatever. Whatever this photo is courtesy of, I guess, NPS, National Park Service. I'm not sure if this is just a conceptual image, but it's a bit blurry. I don't know if you can get a higher res image of it. And then there's just some grammatical comments that I made. On the second page, I don't know all the way where the site plan is. I see you break like the project info page. I don't know if you want to maybe consider relocating the site plan. And then also the where the image in the bottom left with the steel. I'm not really sure. I get what it's trying to portray, but is that kind of blurry structural skeleton of the building with the new steel, is it really pertinent or worthwhile? And also, it's the image is a bit blurry and it doesn't really tell a lot of detail. So that's really all I had.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else have any suggestions or some feedback for Cassie? So Cassie, your work during this period and later, really, in terms of your ADS2 project, has really sort of, I mean, if you don't see that theme, it's there, and I'm telling you that. So, but I'm sure you do, and we've talked about it before. But I clearly feel like this is something you need to be addressing in your essay, the larger essay, the sort of commitment that you have to working with what we're given, improving the things that are maybe obsolete or outdated. That's evident here in this project, which was done simultaneous to the Schubner project. And so that's this is something that I think you can more emphatically play out in terms of why you took classes like this, why this is important to you, why this is important to the profession of architecture, and why this is a benefit. Doing this kind of work is of important significance and benefit to our communities. This is something I think that you need to start leveraging. I know you're thinking of it. I know you're likely taking care of that, but I just want to go on record saying that that's kind of an expectation I have of you and of that essay. And I think it could help position you as an applicant in a firm, you know, in terms of like a skill set, a burning passion, an architectural burning passion that you have, and it will help, you know, you find yourself in firms like, oh, you know, Archive DS or Quinn Evans or somebody like that, you know, who's doing that kind of work and is interested in sharing the commitments that you share. The only thing I'd say about the essay is you say keep, maybe it's retain heritage, not keep. I think that word is a little soft. I think it's on the second column. I'm not sure where it is, quite honestly.
Whoops. I hate when it does that.
It's on the third paragraph, how they can be overcome to keep the building heritage. Retain might be a stronger word for you to consider. Another component that helps make cases like this stronger is that this building has won AIA awards, and that, you know, I mean you've made a point of saying that this was, you know, $182 million. Money well spent is what you're implying. It achieved LEED Gold certification, which is, you know, lovely, and so you're saying that this was an investment in existing stuff that ended up proving to be of benefit at a much larger scale. But I think, you know, if you also describe the role that this process has played in the sort of possibility of design excellence in our community as ratified by the AIA, that's another sort of validating factor.
Okay.
you know, if you guys are ever talking about projects like that, so what you do is you go back to the local AIA site, whether it's AIA Michigan or AIA Detroit or Huron Valley or Northern Michigan or you know, whatever, and you want to look up a project, you want to see if it's received any awards. That would be a good way to sort of discover that. So we have Brock next. Brock, you want to go ahead and screen? Are you going to be able to screen share tonight?
Let's see if it'll work.
Are we keeping our fingers crossed? Hell, it's up.
Okay, great. All right. So I've gone back through and started to clean up the other projects. I don't have the ADS 1 to share with you guys tonight, so I hope to have both 1 and 2 for you guys next week to review. So this is basically the front cover. I don't know. I'm thinking about doing the orange, like an all orange front and back cover, and then where it states Graduate School of Architecture, maybe that's just white. So this is the first spread with the title page. The contents. So breaking into the graduate reflection statement and then critical practice studio and so on. So as you had stated, Mark, maybe, you know, stating that, you know, I started out with UVA, and then I, took a break, and then finishing up here at LTU. So just stating in the upper right that that's, this is the graduate reflection and work that I've done.
Yeah.
The critical practice, this needs a lot of work with the imagery, so I'm not even going to go through that. The environmental issues, this one I don't believe you guys have seen, so going through the Waste Not, Want Not projects, the precedent studies, and contemporary buildings with historic lineage. I don't know if this is getting to be too much. Currently I have, it looks like 17 spreads, 16 spreads. And a lot of them are with this environmental issues project. So going on with the Waste Not, Want Not, I don't know what you guys' thoughts are as far as giving this class as much, I guess, as many slides or spreads, but I'll let you guys chime in later. So the first one is just here, the piston pendant fixture. This was an old piston that I found, and then sandblasted it, cored it out, and then used it as just a piston pendant. Then to the right, you see an old pallet that I turned into a just a storage chest. And then I threw in some quotes here with the first spread to the left. The world will not evolve past its current state of crisis by using the same thinking that created the situation. Albert Einstein. So basically, here's a good example of just trash that we're throwing out that ends up in a landfill or hopefully to a scrapyard and recycled, but who knows. And then off to the right, by Bill McDonough, to eliminate the concept of waste means to design things, products, packaging, and systems from the very beginning on the understanding that waste does not exist. Again, how can we use, in this case, packaging, a pallet, what could its second life or final life become? So here it's storage chest. One of the precedent studies that we looked at was the Adam Joseph Lewis Center on the campus of Oberlin College by Bill McDonough and partners. And then off to the right is the Krasicki Foundation headquarters in Troy. And then these slides are for the contemporary buildings with historic lineage. I still need to get this laid out. The first one is the Elephas Tower in France, and then the second one would be Lakewood House in northeastern Michigan, or northeastern USA. Moving on to sustainable planning, I made a few of the revisions that you guys made. First being rotating the site maps for the conceptual framework. They didn't justify how they were before, so I see that they're a little bit off on these slides.
But I feel like they look better with the model below. So I mean, I think this is a good recommendation for you.
Yeah, and there's still more editing that I want to do. I just feel like there's becoming a lot of spreads and a lot of slides that I'm going to be using for this book, but I don't know if it's overkill or if I need to pare it down. But
the case studies were part of Will Allen's studio. Is that correct?
The precedent studies here?
Yes.
Yeah, we had to. That was part of the field trips that we had to take.
Right, I remember.
So we had 3 to choose from, and
you guys got into the Valerio DeWalt train, the Kresge piece?
We did, yeah. That was
great. Super. I have not been through that yet, and I know Joe Valerio, but I've not been able to get him to tour me through it. So I'm going to have to call Will and ask him how I can get onto that tour. You did 2 because you did a spread, as you call it, which is nice. You did a spread because you had 2 case studies. Maybe to reduce real estate, you could do both buildings on one page, but then you don't have a full spread.
Yeah, I don't mind, I guess, personally, Mark, having more spreads. And
I don't either.
Having a nice, hefty portfolio.
Yeah, I don't mind it either. I'm just trying to sort of calibrate what you really want to say against what you can afford to say.
Right.
And but you're only going to do this once, hopefully. And what I appreciate about at least these precedent studies is how sort of regal they are. These are by high-profile firms. Both have done work in Michigan. So even though one project may not be in Michigan, McDonough has done stuff here with Ford, for example. And of course, the other project, again, an architect not from Michigan, but this piece is here, and it's a high-profile client. So I mean, I think there's some street cred to doing it that way.
Okay.
And these photographs are all things you've taken.
They are, and
there's a sort of a latent quality to the plate, right? In terms of, sort of an emerging interest in photography, architectural photography, right? So I think that's nice.
And Mark, should we be citing our own photographs just so people are not assuming that?
You can say it at the end, Say it, if you are citing in a bibliographic way, anything from a text, a book, a quote, you can say photography by the author.
Okay. All right, so that's pretty much all I have to share, but that's kind of a brief overview of the spread or the layout of my final book.
So Brock, where are you deficient? Are you deficient on anything? Are you current? I'm not clear.
I'm deficient on the ADS one. Yeah.
Okay.
So as I stated, I'd like to get the 2 of those put together, kind of like Max presented tonight.
Yeah, we'll do those next week then.
Right.
Okay. Excellent. Who are your reviewers tonight? Okay, Yusuf, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what to respond on regarding the essays because there was nothing posted at all. So I'm responding just to what I saw tonight. The organization of the images, they're very consistent and they're nice the way that you had them laid out. And if you could go back to page 12 or spread 12.
This one, Yusuf?
Yeah, like to me, when I glance at it right away, they just by glancing at it without even going into detail, they look very identical. The right page and the left page. So I don't know what you want to do here, but like to me, it doesn't seem there isn't enough information to distinguish them. They're very minimal. So maybe I'm suggesting adding different images if you have any, or working out some different renderings, because like I mean I can tell the details, they're very minor, especially like on the master plan model.
Mm-hmm.
I mean it's if you're looking for somebody to grab somebody's attention, it didn't grab my attention. They both looked very similar.
So just let me understand what your concern is. I mean, I'm hearing what you're saying. Are you saying that the site models that are shown at an angle, they demonstrate enough gradation, but the site plans do not?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Both pages, everything that they have, I mean, the layout is identical, which is fine.
Yes, they're repeated, right.
But everything in it, it's very, very similar.
Gotcha.
If you didn't have the left page or the right page, I would still think I would gain the same amount of information.
Interesting.
Possibly, since I'm reading this, it says phase 1 and phase 2, right?
Right.
So a suggestion could be the phase when you introduce phase 2, you fade out all the items on phase 1, so that way phase 2 would only pop out. And then the images, they're all black and white, so I don't know what is phase 1, what is phase 2. So maybe adding some color or some shading, or something that would distinguish this is phase 2.
Right. And then the other thing is he's done a third phase on another plate, which is a standalone, if I'm remembering correctly, right?
Yeah, and then you see that there's just one color in the central image, and it's kind of out of place because everything else is black and white.
Yeah. Or monochromatic. I mean, sometimes the sky is blue, that kind of thing, or more blue than other cases.
And then on page 8, or spread 8, okay, so this is going to be like where we open the book, right, Brock? So the left is going to be the left page, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and you have the text aligned to the right.
So you're getting at swapping the text over here.
I'm just wondering what's up with that.
Which one, Yusuf?
The left page, the alignment of the text on the right instead of left.
The text in your left page is justified right.
Right.
So he's asking about that.
I guess that was meant, Yusuf. That's kind of the intent that I was going for.
Is it repeated in other pages? Because I didn't notice it.
Well, this one is going to take up two pages as well. Yeah, here it's justified right. So I don't know. I even thought about maybe like taking this text and justifying it right close to the binding, as well as this one here. Before, Yusuf, I didn't have everything laid out. Basically, like here on this page where it's a blank page. Before I had, this all the way, to the right or to the left. I'm sorry. Right. Same thing here. Now I've inserted pages to break it up, where each course will start off to the right of the book and track through. So yeah, there's probably a little bit of editing. This should maybe like come over here, swap those images.
But justifying right does seem to be a repeating motif,
Right.
It helps to see it in the context of these other plates.
That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Yusuf. Who else is looking at Brock's work?
Me.
Go ahead.
I like the layout. I think that you kept it pretty consistent throughout and that it all looks uniform and nice. The one super duper nitpick thing, and I already forgot what page it was, maybe 13, that's a guess.
Super duper.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks good. Actually, go back to the one with the other two site plans. Yeah. The edge of the site plan on the left isn't quite lined up with the plan above it, the left edge, so you can move that site plan over a little bit, and then it will be lined up with the image above it, the site plan, and then the master plan below it. That way.
So you're saying, yeah, move this over?
The bottom one. The master plan would be moved over like a couple millimeters.
Okay, I got you.
So that the very
just to line it up.
yeah, so the very corner lines up with the top one. That's all I saw while you presented. Yeah, that one and the other side. The other ones look okay, but you might want to just double check them.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it possible, Brock, that you could maybe collapse these 3 pages into 2, perhaps at the expense of some of these wonderful perspectives?
Yeah.
Perhaps at the expense of maybe the middle phase model, the phase 2 model?
Sure.
I mean, again, in the context of you being a little concerned about how much you're showing us, which I think is, if that's your intuition, I think you have to, respond to that. You have to sort of confront that.
Right.
You might be right. So I just think that might be worth looking at. I love these perspectives, but maybe there's a different way to compose them. And the fact that you're doing 3 plates for the 3 phases identically, as Yusuf has pointed out, seems like an opportunity to do 2 plates with a completely different strategy about composition and content, form and content. And
Mark, what are your thoughts if over here to the far left, these 3 stacked images, if you kind of put, the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 framework, and then to the right you have your conceptual massing, and then maybe to the right page you have larger and less of the perspective shots?
Yeah, I think that might be nice.
Just to condense it, like you're saying, from three pages to 2?
Yeah, and if you do fewer perspective shots, then maybe the middle perspective on the right page, which has a lot of like darks.
Right here?
The middle one. Yes, maybe that goes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe a weaker one. If we go to the next page, maybe the bottom one.
Right. That's really not telling us very much.
Yeah. But the other ones, I think, are stronger, and I think the colored one, as Yusuf pointed out, is a lovely candidate for being larger.
Okay.
And maybe the second best image, a better image, if we go back to the other 2 plates, might be the top right one. Yeah. The top right one is a strong image, but I also think compositionally the lower left one is a strong one.
Okay.
Anytime you're doing these perspectives, you guys, the reason I think we react favorably to a perspective is because in the ones that we've just highlighted, there's a real commitment to foreground, middle ground, and background. And a foreground of some substance, right? So a huge sea of asphalt, like in the first and second image on the left, is not showing that commitment. It's not showing the foreground. Yes, the foreground is the road or the river or the highway, but it's not an architectural foreground. It's not a scale offering condition or element. Yet on the image on the lower right, there's a sense of ambiance, there's a sense of darkness and lightness, there's a sense of here and there, there's a sense of, you know, the human figure in the foreground and an architecture in the background. There's a frame to the photograph or to the image that has some sort of element above that complements the element below. These are the things that we would teach you, if you remember, back in VisCom 1 and 2 and 3. And so these are the things that when you're developing these perspectives in your offices, always try to make sure that you ask yourself, what's the foreground, how active is it, what's the middle and the background. The middle and the background ends up, unfortunately, being the subject a lot. So think of ways to engage the foreground the way that Brock has done here on these images. Not on all of them, but like on the ones that we've highlighted. So Brock, if you go through some surgical editing and some recompositions, you might be able to consolidate 3 into 2 plates and achieve a much stronger sort of solution. I think we also talked a little bit more about, Yusuf was talking tonight about this, about color. Maybe, you know, orange makes its way into the phase diagram so that orange is the new yellow.
Right.
And yellow is the existing stuff from phase 1 when you're talking about phase 2.
Yep.
And yellow is the existing stuff in phase 3 when, you know, or in the previous phase when you're talking about phase 3, where the new stuff there is orange. That kind of thing.
Yep.
Then it corresponds with the model as well.
Okay.
Have you ever looked at? I mean, I know these are SketchUp drawings, but if you've ever looked at, I don't know if I've got it here. Gosh, I hope I do. Yeah, here it is. There's a book that you all, I mean, you're gonna just crack up when you see this. Look familiar? Like these are your drawings, right? So this is a book called The Concise Townscape by Edward Cullen, and or Gordon Cullen rather. And the whole book is, you know, filled with these, you know, wonderful photographs, but the whole book also has all of these hand-drawn sketches of the kinds of perspectives that you've been sort of doing yourself. So I have a real affinity to those, and SketchUp affords you the opportunity to do things just like that. So if you're shopping for a book for yourself for Father's Day, you know, Brock, I would add that to your list. It's not very expensive at all. And then I think you'd like to read him.
Okay.
The Concise Townscape. You all ought to own that. Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add to Brock's plates? Except maybe the sort of gentle reminder to sort of pull together the stuff that you're a little deficient on, Brock, from APS-1, so that we can have a full-blown sort of snapshot of your work next week.
Sure. So while you're enjoying the vineyard, I'll be slaving away over the 4th.
I won't be on the vineyard till July, young man. So I will be watching you slave right from this seat.
Hey, Mark, was your golf trip work or just fun related?
It was pure fun. It was pure fun, and I played some flat-bellied 25-year-old in a match play event that I beat, and I am just a little sort of tickled about that, if you can imagine. It was, I mean, he was bombing the ball 280 yards with his 3-wood off the deck on par 5s, and then he'd get up to the green and just crumble, chipping and over putting and under putting, and he'd card the same 5 or 6 that I would, and then I'm just like some old timer that hits the ball 160 yards all the way down the fairway and rolls in a putt for a birdie or for a par. and he was like, he was going crazy. He was going crazy. But the weather was perfect. I played 2 courses that I'd played before, and played the Monument, which I'd never been to before. And Max, that was an awesome track. I don't know if you've played there, but it was very nice, and I would go back there again. It's a lot closer than the Highlands, so I had fun. But back to work on Monday, as you can imagine, with sore hands and a lot of sunburn. Okay, let's talk a little bit before we go about the essay. Writing, like designing, is a process, and the way you embark on, doing a whole building is you start sketching little vignettes and little ideas, and you start drawing on top of them, and you start layering more things on top of them. You take more things into account. You go home for the weekend, and you come back on Monday, and you start back at it again. So there's this periods of activity, and then there's these periods of reflection. Writing is the same way. So what I encourage you to do is to set aside 2 hours on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night and try to write something, and put it away till Saturday. And look at it Saturday morning and work on it for an hour and put it away until Sunday evening when it's quiet. And go back at it, and to continue to engage and disengage from the writing so that you have these intense bursts of focus, energy, and creativity, and then you step away from it. Writing is as much about writing as it is about thinking about the writing and reflecting about the writing. So I encourage you all to operate on a system, and I'm recommending that system or that strategy because it works for a lot of writers. It works for me, and I suspect if you're honest with yourself about term papers that you've written where you didn't write them the night before they were due, because I know you've done that, and rather you've written them actually during the course of the semester or over the last 2 weeks before the paper was due, those were probably better papers. And so I would encourage you to develop a strategy or an approach that moves from these efforts of intense focus and engagement to these moments of relaxation and not writing. But please don't wait until the end to do that. Please start engaging in that. At the same time, and I'll nag you once more, what Brock and what Max have done for us tonight is shown all of their work in the context of spreads, so that we could see each spread as it comes up as we move through the entire portfolio. Feel comfortable sort of showing that to us as we're moving through it. It was very helpful tonight to see Max's entire body of work. It was extremely helpful to see Brock's entire body of work. So I encourage you for the last essay to do that. You by now will have 4 essays and a 5th one coming down the pike, and I want to encourage you to sort of look at it in the context of the others. A couple of you, Brock included, talked about going back to the earlier essays and tweaking them and adjusting them. That should be happening as well. And make sure that you're now committed to the cover design, the binding design, a dedication, if any, a cover sheet, a table of contents. These are all the things we're seeing in Max's and in Brock's plates. I know we're seeing it in the other plates. If you're going to do a bibliography, make sure that that's done now, because really after next week's class, and you are, by the way, 80% done with the hard lifting for this course tonight, so congratulations on that. But for the next 2 weeks, I want you to enjoy pulling together ADS2 and be fully engaged in the writing of the reflective essay. That's where I think your heads need to be. And if you move through that on-off process and have enough to share with your classmate, your reviewing classmate, do them a favor. Use them. Send something to them. Say, you know, dude, this is what I got right now. It's a mess, but I want you to see where I'm going. And if you have anything to say, I'm happy to hear what you can offer. And then that partner needs to be on board to read that stuff and give back information. Again, this is a team effort. Those were the terms of engagement from the very beginning of the semester, and this is where those terms or rules start to play out. You'll be doing them a favor if you do it that way, rather than dumping the essay on them toward the very end of the semester or toward the very end of the month. So definitely take advantage of their expertise, because as you've seen, your classmates are spot on. They are looking at your work. I'm pleased about that. They're very thorough. You guys have been scrupulous and meticulous about the work of your classmates. That is helping you a lot, and I appreciate how carefully you guys are doing that. So kudos to you for that. We started the class tonight with anybody on the ledge. I just want to make sure that there's no one on the ledge, that you guys are moving through the work comfortably. It seems to me that you are. Is there any questions about those next steps? None.
Has anyone sent a test plot to Blurb or any of the other publishers? Max, I knew that you had mentioned possibly doing that.
I have not as of yet. I would like to, but as days are dwindling down, I don't know if I'll have time to.
So what you've shown, I think that's, you were saying before, is it 20 pages or 20 spreads? That's the minimum.
It's 20 spreads, so in a sense it's almost, I think it's 22 spreads, so it's roughly in the 40, mine will be about 40 to 50 pages.
Okay.
When it's done.
Okay.
And as you know, Brock, from the earlier plates, as well as Max, from the earlier portfolios, they ranged from 40 to 60 to 80. Some were more or less than that. So you guys are, there's nothing sort of surprising to me tonight. There's no concerns from my perspective. Okay. Anyone else? Super. We'll see you next week. As you know, I'm available over the weekends to look at anything. If you do write something and you want me to look at it, just send it to me. If you have any questions or need to talk, send me an email, or we can set up a hangout and we can go from there. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Have a good week, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Can I hold you off for 10 more minutes?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't know if you want to keep the live on or not.
Oh, sorry.